Hello, and welcome to another episode of Books versus Movies, the podcast where I try to answer the age-old question, is a book really always better than the movie? My name is Yuvia. I'm an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today we will be discussing Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk and its 1999 adaptation, Fight Club, starring Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. So I do apologize if this episode sounds a little bit different. I'm just one person doing this and figuring this out on my own, and I really wanted to start a podcast, and so that means figuring out things as they come up. So today's solution means using my computer audio as opposed to recording with my microphone, because recording with my microphone was so much worse for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But I have some exciting news I cannot share, but it will improve the quality of this podcast. But anyway, let's get started. Yes, you heard it right. I said Chuck Palahniuk, which is the correct pronunciation of the author. As you will recall, when I was in my preview last week, when I told you which book I was discussing next, I said Chuck Palahniuk. And okay, here's the thing. Palahniuk ends with N-I-U-K. And so before I knew how to pronounce this author's name correctly, I called him that. I got a kick out of the fact that his first name and his last name rhymed. So I'm a little disappointed to find out that they actually don't rhyme. But, you know, I will respect that the proper way to pronounce it is Palahniuk. I apologize for last week's pronunciation, but yeah, let's get into our discussion. So, Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk was first published in 1996. This is the first book he ever published, and we follow our narrator. He's never given a name. We just know that he is our narrator. He leaves his job to follow Tyler Durden, this man that he meets by chance on a plane, and he starts a fight club with him. And in this fight club, there are several rules. Everyone knows the most important rule: you don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. Everyone knows is like the most iconic quote from the book/film. So yes, this book ultimately has an underlying message that is hidden within like this gritty tale of this fight club. There is like an anti-consumerist message, anti-capitalist message, I suppose, but most importantly, anti-consumerist message is at the core of it. The 1999 Fight Club adaptation stars Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, and it is directed by David Fincher. It follows an insomniac office worker who meets a soap maker by chance. They form an underground fight club that ends up evolving into something much more than that. So yes, I will say this is a pretty faithful adaptation. There are obviously some minor changes, but overall, what you get in the book, you get in the film. The biggest change comes at the end. So there are like some minor changes. I don't think that they're that important to discuss in this instance. The main thing, the biggest thing that we need to discuss is the ending. So spoiler alert, I am about to reveal the ending, the big plot. I think everyone knows what the big plot twist is by this point. I mean, this book came out 27 years ago and the movie came out 24 years ago. So it's been 20 years, but you know, there's always the off chance that you don't know what it is. I myself, so this is my first time watching the film and reading the book, but even I knew what the plot twist was way before watching it. But you know, all of this ranting should have given you plenty of time to, you know, click off. If you're still here, well, you can't blame me at this point. So the big plot twist is that the narrator and Tyler Durden are the same person. Yes, it turns out that the narrator has, I guess it would be dissociative identity disorder, and he's been Tyler Durden all along. And the film ends. So that is a big plot twist. So let's backtrack a little bit to kind of set up the film / the book, and then we can discuss the ending. So essentially, Tyler Durden and the narrator start this fight club. From there, Tyler Durden kind of starts evolving the fight club into something that ends up being called Project Mayhem. Project Mayhem starts committing all these different acts of urban terrorism, all in an effort to prove to society that they've been brainwashed into thinking they need things that they don't need, to stop thinking yourself as special. You're not special. There's nothing special about you. You need to focus more. For the men specifically, this is a very man-heavy film. So the men specifically need to focus on, their masculinity and, being tough and not worry so much about, looking good. And obviously, there are more important things. And these men are getting beat up and really, really severely. So, don't worry so much about my handsome face, it's ruined. No, you are a tough guy who's in the fight club. And that is ultimately more important than keeping your handsome face. So yes, the ultimate goal of Project Mayhem is to detonate a bunch of bombs on several big banks. Ultimately, they hold all the credit card information of the country, essentially. So by destroying all these big banks, the society's debt is essentially set to zero, and we can start from there. So that's kind of what the Fight Club morphs into. And along the way, the narrator realizes that he's not on board with the plan, and he starts trying to find Tyler to convince Tyler to stop moving forward with the plan. And then he realizes that he, in fact, is Tyler. And the film, so this is how the book and the film end, and they are vastly different. So the film ends with with the narrator realizing that he's Tyler, and he tries to put a stop to it. The members of Project Mayhem say, "You told us that no matter what you said, we should not put a stop to this. Look at your ultimate Project Mayhem come to fruition." He is reunited with his girlfriend, and they hold hands as they look out the window and see all the banks explode. Vastly, vastly, vastly different from the book, in which, again, the narrator realizes that he is, in fact, Tyler Durden, and he tries to end his life, He tries to kill Tyler Durden, and he tries to kill Tyler Durden by shooting himself. And it ends with him in heaven, or what he thinks is heaven, but is heavily implied and to the reader that he is actually in some sort of asylum. So yes, that is vastly different. It's unclear if Project Mayhem comes to fruition in the book right as it's about to happen. The narrator shoots himself, and he thinks that the next thing he does is he wakes up in what he thinks is heaven, but he realizes, he doesn't realize. The audience realizes, based on his description that of the angels and the way they're talking to him, that they're actually like the nurses that work at this asylum. So yeah, Tyler Durden has indeed died. The narrator is still alive in an asylum somewhere, and several of the nurses at this asylum still refer to him as Tyler and say, "Don't worry, we're still pushing forward with the plan." And he's like kind of confused about like what the angels are talking about. So yes, the narrator is not aware at all that he's in asylum. He knows that he shot himself, and when he wakes up, he thinks he's in heaven. So he does not realize at all that he is in an asylum. So yeah, I know that this is one of the endings in which the author was actually like, you know what? The ending of the film was actually much better than the ending of my book. So kudos to that. So yes, Chuck Palahniuk has given his seal of approval to the ending, the changes made to the ending. He likes it, and he actually thinks that it's better than what he wrote. And I have to say, I agree. Overall, I actually thought that the message that was trying to be portrayed in the novel, or in the novella, I guess it's a really short book. It's only about 200 pages, so it's a very quick read. Yes, so I do think the film was a little too slow-paced for me. It did reach a point where I was like, all right, I got it. Like, Project Mayhem, Fight Club, we get it. Let's keep going. And it is a faithful adaptation, minus the ending, but they added just so much more to the film. I think they definitely could have, the film could have been about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes shorter than it actually is. It just felt like such a long film. Like, I was really into it when it started, and then around the halfway point, I was kind of just like, all right, like, let's move on. We get it. Like, we get it. keep it moving, folks. And yeah, so there was like really short scenes in the books that were made extra long in the film. There were some other changes that I agree with, mainly when the narrator figures out that he's Tyler. In the film, in the book, he kind of figures it out as he realizes that everyone, he's flying to all the places that Tyler used to frequent, and everyone is referring to him as Tyler. And he says, why does everyone keep calling me this? And then it hits him like, oh, all the times that I thought I was having insomnia, I was like, me, the narrator, was asleep, but Tyler was awake, committing all these Project Mayhem tasks. And in the film, he starts to realize it, and then Marla, his girlfriend, is kind of what cements it, and he starts trying to fight Tyler off. Like, there's this actually really cool shot where we see Edward Norton and Brad Pitt fighting each other as the narrator and Tyler. But then we switch to the security camera footage of the building they're in, and we just see Edward Norton beating himself up, essentially. So that was really cool. But otherwise, a lot of things were expanded in the film, and I think to the detriment of the film's pacing. I will say, as I said, I do think the message of the book was a lot more clear in the film. After the book ended, I was a little confused, and I was like, wait, was I supposed to be getting the message that I understood while watching the film? Was I supposed to get that from the book? And yes, you are still supposed to get the same messaging. But yeah, I will say the film was a lot more clear to me. I don't necessarily think that it was all the things they added. Like I said, I do think they could have, what made it a lot easier for me to understand it in the film was just the visual aspect that obviously you don't get in a book. So just having it visually presented to me, I was like, all right, I get it. I understand what the message is. And yeah, got it. So yeah, the film I felt was just a lot more clear to me in a way that the book wasn't. However, I do think that the pacing is the ultimate downfall of the film. I felt like it did not need to be as long as it did. It's only about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is long, but it honestly felt so much longer. And yeah, like I just feel like we got it. We got the message. We got it. You don't need to hammer it in every 5 minutes. Like, we got it. So maybe that's another reason why I understood the message a little bit more, because it was hammered in so much in the film. And it didn't need to be. Like I said, we get it. We get it. We get it. So yeah, I thought that thought Edward Norton as the narrator was great. Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden was also great. I thought that they played really well off of each other, and yeah, I just thought that they had great chemistry as narrator and Tyler. So I think that's all I have to say for it. I thought I was going to have a lot more to say, but no, I mean, really, it's a short book made into a much longer than needed to be film. The message, I have no idea what's going on. I apologize for that alarm. So yes, the message, a lot more clear in the film. Just a lot more clear in the film, just maybe a little bit too long and indulgent in moments. And again, the film, because the book was very quick read. All right. So I rated the film 4 out of 5 stars, and the book got 3 out of 5 stars for me. So I do think that the film adaptation is better than the book. Honestly, they were both okay to me. After watching it, I didn't quite really get the hype of Fight Club. I remember Fight Club was one of those films that everyone kind of just talked to me about and said like, oh, this is a must watch. And I'm glad I watched it, but it's not necessarily something I'm going to want to watch again in the future. The book was definitely, I did enjoy the film a lot more though. I had issues with the pacing as mentioned, but overall it's a solid film with solid acting, and it's like they have some really, really cool shots in there. And the final image of Tyler and Marla holding hands as they see the banks explode around them is really visually cool. The book itself was just okay. Like the film was like, I guess I would say the film was okay, but like if you put the film on again, it's not something I'm gonna watch by choice, but if someone is watching the film, I'm okay with like sitting down and watching it again. The book was just, I didn't think it was I thought, like I said, I thought it was kind of hard to follow. The messaging of it was just not as clear to me, and I don't know, there's just something about it that did not draw me in the way the film did. Like the film started and I was really into it, and then like I said, it lost me a little bit in the middle, but then towards the end it grabbed my attention again, and the book never really grabbed me like that. So that's the discrepancy between the 3 stars versus 4-star rating. And yeah, so I think definitely the film is worth a watch, at least just once. Like me, this is probably one and done for me, but I think it's definitely worth a watch. The book, I mean, I don't think there's any harm in reading it. Obviously, I'm not gonna say the book is a straight up skip for me. If I were to suggest one or the other, I would definitely suggest the film, but the book is not like a definite skip for me. However, if you watch just the film, I think you're okay. You don't need to watch the book. I mean, you don't need to read the book. So yes, in this case, I do think the film was a lot better, and I have nothing else to add. Yeah, that's it. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Books versus Movies. And next time we will be talking about I Know This Much Is True by Wally Lamb and its HBO adaptation, I Know This Much Is True, starring Mark Ruffalo. So see you next time.